Hi, class. I'd like to clarify filling out this research evaluation worksheet. To start off with, you have to find a research article to analyze. So you're going to go in the library, probably into EBSCOhost, and locate an article. And then where it says title, list the title of the article, and then give the full reference for the article in APA format. You may want to use the APA citation generator to do that. Where it says abstract, just copy and paste the abstract in there. That's all you need to do for that. Then you're going to start answering questions. And it says introduction is the need for the study clearly stated in the introduction of the paper and explained by using information presented in the lit review. So you're reading to see how did they describe that. What is the research hypothesis if it's quantitative, or research question if it's qualitative? What are the variables of interest? If it's quantitative, you'll have independent and dependent variables. If it's qualitative, you'll just have a variable. And then how are the variables defined? For method, what's the total sample size? If they had groups, how many per group? Say like they had a control group, an experimental group and a control group. Did they describe methods and procedures so that the study could be replicated? Now, the way to think about this, could you conduct this study based on the description they provided? Or is there missing information where you wouldn't know how to go about doing it? That's the way to figure this out. And then if information is missing, what would you need in order to replicate the study? All right, how to describe how they selected their participants, how were they recruited, were they randomly selected or purposive? Were there any biases in the sampling? Like, for example, everybody in the sample was one gender. Were the samples appropriate for the population? In other words, did the sample seem to be representative of the population if they wanted to generalize? And that'd be for quantitative. A qualitative study, there would be no generalization. So, for example, if you reviewed a qualitative study for D, you would answer generalization was not a goal of the study. What are the characteristics of the sample populations, or how did they describe them? Then you're going to pick the design that applies to what you reviewed. Now, don't check a bunch of these. There should be one of these that fits. So pick the one that fits and check that. Then was a control group used? So obviously that'd be quantitative only. If it's qualitative, it does not apply, and you would say does not apply. Was a control group appropriate? Once again, if it's a quantitative study. What variable was being controlled for? And were subjects randomly assigned to groups? So that whole section applies only to a quantitative study. Then for measures, how did they measure the dependent variables? So for example, if my dependent variable was job satisfaction, say they use an instrument like the job descriptive index. Okay, so I would write that down. They use the job descriptive index to measure job satisfaction. And then I would describe that the validity and reliability of the job descriptive index. Then it says, consider the following questions. For all measures, was evidence of reliability and validity provided? So that'd be quantitative. Do the reliability and validity justify the use of the measure, or does it seem to be good reliability and validity? Were the measures appropriate? Are multiple measures used? And probably in most quantitative studies, there's more than one measure. If they used observers, judges, or raters, did they provide an inter-rater reliability? All right, independent, dependent variables. Once again, this is for a quantitative study. If it was a qualitative study, there'd just be a variable of interest. Data of analysis, what type of data was provided. How did they analyze the data? In other words, did they do a multiple regression, t-test? What did they do? Did they use tables and graphs? Then you're going to answer the following questions. How did they do a test of significance? Did they report means and standard deviations as well? In other words, how did they do their statistical analysis? That's for quantitative only. Discussion, evaluate the summary and conclusions. So how useful were they? Describe the strength and limitations of the study. What did you learn? So that's subjective. That's what you got out of it. And what questions do you have that were not answered? And so you're literally working your way through this form, and you have to make sure that when you answer a question that it applies to this type of study you reviewed. So I think you can see it's really important that you pick a good article to review for this activity, because if you don't, it's going to be hard to answer all these questions through here. Thanks.